The Super Speedway Podcast is a Dream Bigger media production. For news, photos, show notes, and information about advertising on the podcast, visit www.thesuperspeedway.com.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Super Speedway.
Welcome to episode 91 of the Super Speedway Podcast, recorded Thursday, January 10th, 2019. I didn't mess that up. I'm your host, Eric Young. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, James Cush. James, it's the first one of the new year. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going good, man. It is going good. I'm well rested.
Yeah.
Ready to attack a new season here in, 38 days?
I don't know. I'm not even counting. I know it's coming. It's coming quick.
NASCAR Twitter's got us covered on the freaking countdown. They've been doing it since 100 days. So
I heard Denny Hamlin's a big fan of that.
Oh, I think me and Denny, we probably could have a couple of brewskis over our frustrations. I tell you. Wow.
I was listening to Larry McReynolds yesterday, and he says he loves it. He likes the reminder. So.
Yeah. Well, how could you forget?
Hey, I like the reminder. I would do it all year long if we could. Although, I don't know. I've been busy enough. I don't need NASCAR right now. But as a matter of fact, I mean, this was the one chance we had this week to get together, and we managed to do it.
Yep.
We got some news to talk about. I teased in the last episode a discussion topic that I do not have in the show notes and don't plan on doing tonight. So we'll do that in the future. Just trying to get a podcast out here during the off season and run through some stuff. It should be short, which means, guess what, guys? Probably an hour and a half long.
I told my wife tonight, I said, hey, I'm going to go do a recording with Eric. And I said, it's going to be a short one. And she looked at me and laughed. So,
yeah. We're going to do it. Tonight's going to be the night, James. Under 45 minutes.
Let's go.
All right.
We got this.
Let's kick it off then. All right. So the big news, we almost came on last week to talk about this, but just couldn't find the time to do it. So the news broke, I think it was before Christmas, right? About the FBI raiding the home of...
It was right after... it was right before Christmas. Because,
yeah, because I think the article was December 20th is the date on it.
Yeah, because if you want a fun little Twitter read, there was a big DC Solar Christmas party.
Oh, yeah.
And all the drivers were there, and there was a bunch of pictures, and then I think it was either the next day or the day after. The news.
Yes. So federal agents raid the home and business of, Jeff and Paulette Karpov, owners of DC Solar and the Martinez Clippers Baseball Club. This is courtesy of the Martinez News Gazette, which is the local paper there. The Karpov's lawyer issued a statement to the Gazette. The Karpov family was surprised and disappointed when the actions taken with the actions of the government taken earlier this week, which appear to relate to an ongoing tax dispute. They are longtime residents and supporters of the Martinez community who believe in our country and all that it stands for. The Karpovs are grateful for the support, blah, 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 blah. So this breaks, and then we start wondering, what's going
to happen to Ross Chastain?
What's going to happen to Chip Ganassi Racing, who depends on sponsorship from DC Solar? And like James said, what's going to happen to Ross Chastain, who just announced a full season deal with DC Solar and Chip Ganassi Racing in the Xfinity Series? And the shoe dropped on January 4th with a statement from Chip Ganassi Racing saying that they are closing the Xfinity team. Due to lack of sponsorship funding, we will cease operation of the number 42 Xfinity team in 2019. This was a difficult decision for me to make, and it comes with much anguish, as this is a championship caliber team, having won 6 races and finished second in the Owners' Championship, and more importantly, because it affects a number of good people's livelihoods. Running a car without proper funding is difficult to do. This will not affect the Kyle Larson, Kurt Busch teams in the Cup Series, although it will affect Kyle Larson because DC Solar was a sponsor on the car, but it's not going to affect their full-time status, and they're going to still continue to field the team, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
So Ross Chastain's out of a ride. I have not seen any updates. I don't know if you have, James, on his. I know he's still got the Cup plan next year.
Yeah, he does not have a full-time Xfinity ride.
Right, and probably
so he is.
I mean, I would.
It's late in the game. His seat
is it late in the game though for Xfinity? I mean, it's getting there.
It's getting there.
But we're talking like November. We're talking like October, November in Cup right now. You're toward the end, but there's still a chance.
Yeah. But the problem is, and the same thing is the problem with the Truck Series, there's no new seats opening up. There's no additional teams.
Right.
Everything is being trimmed.
Yes.
Teams are going from 3 to 2, 2 to 1, and in this case for Chip Ganassi, it's 1 to 0.
Right.
So that's the problem for Chastain. He's out of a championship level ride, and he's back to where he started, and even worse so because I believe Blake Koch has got his old ride.
Okay.
So and he's bringing funding. Blake Koch has his own sponsorship, so he is bringing funding to the car that Chastain used to drive.
Not to correct you publicly, but I think it is Blake Cook. I think is how you pronounce the name.
Blake Koch, Cook.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, I'm a Cush.
I know this comes from the
never get it
person.
right.
This comes from the person that pronounced your name wrong for 10 years. So.
Yeah. So we're good. Everybody knows who I'm talking about.
So yeah. So I mean, obviously this isn't a good thing for Ross Chastain. In the grand scheme of things, is this a career ender for him, James? Do you think, or is this a career staller?
I will say right now it's a staller. But if he doesn't find a resolution by the middle of this season, he's not going to get another chance.
That's kind of what I think. I mean, I think what it comes down
People
to
will
is
forget. People will forget.
People will forget him. He needs to bring some sponsorship with him to be able to do. I mean, if he's got the sponsorship, somebody put him in a car.
Yeah.
But he needs a sponsorship to do it, and we're learning that more and more right now. And we can get into that discussion now, or we can wait until the end of the news, which
we might. Yeah, we might as well, because it's pretty much out of the same breath.
Yeah.
You know?
So we'll dig into that, and that'll probably be our big discussion topic of the podcast. So, anything else to say there on that deal? I mean,
it's a bummer for Chastain. He proved he belonged with a good, solid team.
Yeah. And
it sucks for drivers like him who are very talented, but they don't bring the backing with them.
Right.
And you're just out of a ride at this point, and it sucks. I mean, he's a good driver. I would have liked to have seen what he could have done with a full season. He probably would have been a championship contender.
He'd have been a championship contender for sure, and likely a champion in the Xfinity Series.
That was a really good team too.
Yeah.
That team won, I think, 6 races last year or something like that. So that's a good team. That's a good team that's going away, kind of watering down. We'll talk about this with the Truck Series a little bit too, but the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series are getting a little bit watered down. The really good teams are getting smaller. There's fewer really good teams, and there's really no middle class anymore.
Right.
And this is just another good team. It's a shame. It's a shame that we're losing these teams.
Right. Yeah, I don't really have anything to add to it. It's a bummer. Definitely a bummer for Ross Chastain. I was a big fan of his last year, and it was cool to see somebody essentially, I don't want to say rise from the ashes, but make themselves noticed in an underfunded team to the point that they get an opportunity in a big team. I mean, this was the Ryan Preece story, but a little bit different,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was a guy taking the opportunities that he had and proving that he could do it, and it's a bummer that he's left out in the cold, and not anything of his doing, nothing he could have done about it, and it sucks. So and this is the nature of our sport right now, and you're going to see more stories like this. In fact, in about a couple minutes.
Yes.
So before we get to that, some really big news broke over the last 2 weeks. Nobody saw it coming at all. Daniel Suarez.
May last year, we kind of had
Daniel Suarez has a ride next year, James.
And he's already driving the car. How about that?
Right.
Testing.
So Daniel Suarez joined Stewart-Haas Racing. No surprise at all. Everybody knew it was coming. It was pretty much, when's the announcement going to come? And that's about all we have to say about that.
Yeah, sounds like it does sound like Eris is not bringing as much money to the table.
Right. I think
that could have been our.
Are they still staying with JGR some too?
I don't know about that.
I thought I'd heard something that they were still staying. Maybe the discussion just was that they weren't bringing the full shebang with him. I know that there is a partnership there, but
yeah, Haas is still the main sponsor of the 41 car.
Yep.
So that's and that must have been the holdup, where they were trying to figure out how to do that.
Probably.
The whole deal. But neither here nor there. Daniel Suarez doesn't take a step back. This is a lateral move.
Yeah. Well, that's
why
I was gonna ask you that, because to make some discussion out of this topic that we've known for all this time, Is that you feel it's not a step up, step down? This is
top tier team to top tier team.
Okay.
This is and this Stewart Haas team may even be better. I think
that's what I'm wondering. I think this is a step up for Daniel Suarez.
Yeah, the organization is not a step up. I mean, Gibbs and Haas are the class of the field.
Right. I think as far as what support he's going to get out of his team, I think this is the step for him. This is a
championship caliber team last year. This team, if things could have broke differently.
Not to say anything bad about Joe Gibbs, but he's wanted where he's at right now, and he wasn't as much at Joe Gibbs. I feel. You know what I mean? Because if he was, they would have fought a little harder to figure out a way to keep him, and they would have not.
It's the Joey Logano thing all over again.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, don't get me wrong. Joe Gibbs, they got Truex. They did what they got to do. I mean, someone's got to go. It's just the nature of the sport again, especially when there's limits on the teams in the Cup Series. But I think it's a step up for Daniel Suarez. I think this is a career move for him, and I think you might see him in victory lane this year.
Yeah, possibly.
I mean, there's a pretty good chance.
I was going to ask you too. How about that Goodyear tire test at Auto Club Speedway this week? What a group of three! If they could have picked a worse group of three drivers who don't like each other,
I didn't even pay attention. Who was there?
So Joey Logano was there, testing with Daniel Suarez, testing with Martin Truex Jr.
Nice.
So you've got Logano and Truex, who obviously don't like each other right now. And you've got Suarez testing with the team he literally just left.
So what you're saying is they were not eating lunch together.
Well, they were driving pretty close to each other, but they were probably not having lunch as drivers. Maybe Suarez and Logano. But I don't know. That was quite the interesting group of three drivers I thought to put at this test.
That is pretty funny. Yeah, I thought I had something else to say, but I think it's a good move for Suarez. I think everybody all around is going to be a good move.
Yeah, and look at what happened with Eric Almirola last year. That's your positive outlook right there. Eric Almirola really never was much of a contender in the series. Last year, 5th in points.
Well, what's funny is I feel like this is a win-win-win situation. This is a step up for Daniel Suarez. Joe Gibbs Racing takes a step up by getting Truex. Truex takes a step up to go to JGR. So everybody's happy.
Yeah, everybody wins. This is Stewart Haas is basically buying low on potential superstar talent. Yeah, I'd say. I mean, this guy's an Xfinity Series champion. He's no slouch.
I don't know if he's got the personality for it, but we'll see. Maybe.
I mean,
get him on camera a little more.
Sure, but if let's say this is the Joey Logano situation, and you bring Daniel Suarez in, and all of a sudden, boom, you're winning Daytona 500s and possibly a Cup Series championship. I mean that could happen.
Yeah, it could.
I don't know if he's a championship level driver. We haven't seen that out of him in the Cup Series just yet, but we didn't see it at Gibbs for Logano either. So
right. Well, we know he's a championship level driver. He's done it in the other series.
Well, yeah, in the Xfinity. Yeah, and that's what I mean. Is not in the Cup Series yet. He hasn't done anything in the Cup Series to prove that he's that type of driver.
Once you've won a championship, you're definitely. I don't know. I guess I can't say that because Ricky Stenhouse is not a championship contender in the Cup Series. So never mind.
Ricky Stenhouse has a pair of Cup Series or a pair of Xfinity championships.
Yeah, never mind. Dale Jr. won the Xfinity Series back when. Okay, never mind.
Truex won his Xfinity championships, and it was a long time and a lot of bad driving before he won his Cup Series championship.
That's true, and Truex won it back when the Cup drivers were in the series and counted too. So.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, never mind. I'm wrong. All right. That was way more discussion on that than I expected. So good. I'm glad.
Yeah, that was a big news, though. It was big.
Yeah. Jeff Gordon returning to Fox Sports multi-year deal. I didn't see any article how many deals those multi-years are. But that's good. I think I don't think anybody's going to be disappointed about that. There was, talk that he was not signing on for the additional year because who knows what might happen with this or that or this and whatever. But Gordon's coming back, and I think that's good for Fox.
Yeah, it's a great move for Fox. I'd wish that they'd skinny up that booth. I'm not going to say any more after that. But there's definitely he's hinting at the Hendrick succession plan as well. So.
Yep.
Yeah, you'll probably see Jeff Gordon there for the duration of this contract, maybe one more And then I think he'll probably come down out of the booth at some point. That's just the way I read his comments. You know,
Right.
he was very to the point. Jeff was very very honest about his experience with the booth, which was cool. Good to see.
Yep. I think it's great. I think having him on Fox is essential.
Yeah,
Him being on Fox is like Junior being on NBC.
Yeah,
they
exactly.
both add
It's
a
great.
ton to the broadcast.
Yeah,
So,
it's great.
yep.
It's great.
When they start getting Jeff Gordon to say boogity boogity boogity, I am done with Fox. So that's all I'll say.
Yeah, don't do that, Jeff.
And now we get to the big news of the week. James, CMT has announced they've postponed the airing of Racing Wives.
I honest to God didn't even know that this happened until I read it in the show notes that you had typed up.
Were you aware of the show to begin with, at least?
I was.
Okay, so for those of you who are not aware, CMT was going to do this show that centered around of several of the Racing Wives. Samantha Bush was on it. I believe
Dylan.
both of Dylan's wives were on it, right? Austin's wife was, I know.
I've seen enough of Austin's wife on his Instagram feed. I don't need to see her on TV anymore.
So anyway, this was the plan, and it was supposed to be this great thing, and then they aired a teaser trailer for it, and apparently it didn't go as expected, and it has been delayed.
Here's my thought on this. If a show is so bad that it can't get airtime on CMT, do we even bother ever showing it? Can't we just forget that it happened?
Here's the thing,
I feel like CMT would take anything.
No good is going to come from this show because this is a reality show about women in NASCAR. I'm not being sexist. You know what this network is going for. This network is going for the catfights. This network is going for these girls not getting along. They're going to try and play up these arguments that don't exist. And we just don't need this. We didn't. When they announced the show was happening, I was a big fan of NASCAR Drivers 360 when it was on Fox because it followed the drivers and the families, and that's interesting to me. But they're no good. No good would have come from this.
No, this is not the Real Housewives.
Right.
You know?
It's postponed until spring/summer. Let's hopefully it's spring/summer in 2050.
It's not coming out. This show will not air.
It's not happening for sure.
No, it's not going to air.
Which is not a disappointment.
If it does air, it's going to get the 3 a.m. slot.
Yeah.
Filler. CMT pulled the plug for a reason.
Yeah. I'm good. I'm good with that. All right. Now the actual big news of the week, I think, personally. It's not in the Cup Series, but it's in the Truck Series. GMS Racing announces, what was it, today? Yesterday?
Yeah, I saw. Well, it started. It's over the course of a couple of days because one of the drivers involved was mad and it's basically said the news before the news was announced.
So Johnny Sauter, championship contender in the Truck Series, gets the boot from his 21 truck at GMS Racing for Brett Moffitt, last year's defending champion of the Truck Series. Brett Moffitt will drive the 24 truck for GMS Racing in 2019. Now, remember, Brett Moffitt lost his ride to, which I don't even know. Did we talk about it on here? We didn't talk about who took over his ride, right?
No, because that just got announced earlier this week.
Right. So Tyler Young, right, is taking over that ride?
Is it Tyler Young?
Is Tyler Young the one that's taking over that truck?
I thought it was something Day.
I don't know. Crap. Anyway, I thought it was Tyler Young. I thought he was bringing sponsorship in it. Hold on, James. Let's fire up the old Google machine.
Get on that Google machine.
A little harder to find Truck Series news on the Google. The Google.
The Google. Might be the only place to get Truck Series news anymore is the Google.
I'm telling you, it's Tyler Young. Tyler Young. Maybe not. Maybe not. Come on.
See, this is how prepared we are.
Yeah, this is what happens during the off season. Okay.
I have a feeling you're going to edit this portion.
I don't know. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to edit it. I guess it depends on how long it takes me to figure out what the answer is.
I thought it would be in the story that you linked, but NASCAR.com not doing their job.
Austin Hill, not Tyler Young. Austin Hill. Same difference. It's the same. He drove for the same team last year. Because Tyler Young drove the 20, Austin Hill drove the 02. So Austin Hill goes to Hattori Racing to drive in place of Brett Moffitt because Austin Hill has sponsorship that he's bringing with him, whereas Brett Moffitt did not have sponsorship, but apparently has more skill or promise than Johnny Sauter, and thus Johnny Sauter gets the boot and is not happy about it. First of all, is Johnny Sauter right to be mad? Second of all, is GMS right to make this decision?
Well, if everybody thinks that Brett Moffitt had a right to be ticked off for losing his ride,
right,
then Johnny Sauter has a right to be ticked off for the same thing happening to him.
Especially in frickin' January.
Yes, late. Because Moffitt, I believe I was reading that Moffitt is bringing a little bit of dollars with him. So he's got some sort of backing to help fund the team.
Okay.
Now, but the team is moving. The team is going down from 3 trucks to 2.
Right.
They are getting rid of the 21 truck.
Yep.
And they are going to run the 24.
So technically, Brett Moffitt's not taking over.
It's Justin Haley's.
Yeah, he's taking Justin Haley's ride.
But Johnny Sauter's the odd man out,
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. NASCAR Twitter, me and NASCAR Twitter we're having beef right now.
See, I haven't been on NASCAR Twitter at all. I open it for the podcast and that's it.
It's terrible. It's countdowns and it's a cesspool. So NASCAR Twitter just gets all.
Wait a minute,
off.
I know you've been on there too because I saw you retweeting Nick Bromberg or liking him. Nick Bromberg.
Bromberg's on it right now. He's on one. Bromberg's really. I
can't read his Twitter right now because he's gonna be right, and I can't.
Yeah,
I just can't handle it.
He's on the money right now.
Yeah.
So Moffitt, everybody throws a fit because Moffitt's being replaced by a guy, one of the funded kids, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the champion's out. Then I feel like nobody's mad that Johnny Sauter got the boot for Moffitt because everybody likes Moffitt, but it's the same situation.
I don't think a lot of people like Johnny Sauter.
Well, and that's probably part of Johnny Sauter.
Johnny Sauter's like the Kyle Busch of the truck series.
And that's fine. But still, Johnny Sauter was also racing for a championship at Homestead last year. He was a Final Four driver.
I guess you could call what he did at Homestead racing.
Well, I know he had a bad. But these guys both had 6 wins last year.
Yeah.
Sauter technically had the better year. 6 wins, top 14 top 5s, 17 top 10s to 13 top 5s and 13 top 10s for Moffitt. However, if I'm a team owner and I want to replace Johnny Sauter, yes, give me Brett Moffitt.
You got more of a future with Moffitt.
You get the younger up and coming talent. He's pretty much half his age. Sauter's 40, Moffitt's 26. So, if I was an owner, I'd take Moffitt all day. I just don't understand the outrage. I mean, this is the business. This is the business, man. It sucks that Moffitt lost his ride, but it's a business.
Yeah.
Sports.
How many championships did Johnny Sauter win in the Truck Series?
I know he won 2016 or 2017.
See, Racing Reference isn't showing me. They don't show me championships, do they?
Hold on. Oh, I got it. It's coming.
They must have
They should show your in overall career statistics. They will show you where they rank.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's got one championship in the Truck Series, 2016. That's it. He finished second in 2017. Finished fourth this past year.
So Final Four 3 years, well, I guess when he won, there wasn't a Final Four. I don't know. I can't remember when they instituted the playoffs.
So this would be my argument against Johnny Sauter. In 2011, he won 2 races. 2012, he won 2 races. He won 3 races in 2013. 2016, he won 3. 2017, 4. 2018, 6. He's got 1 championship for those multi-win seasons. I would argue that Sauter hasn't sealed the deal enough.
Sauter, out of the percentage of starts that Sauter has run, he has a 9% win rate or something like that.
Okay.
Moffitt's at 19. Moffitt's much higher.
Yeah.
And this is a good move for GMS.
Right.
I don't know. I think it's a great move.
How much longer can you? You can't fault Moffitt at all. in this.
Oh God, no. Not at all.
I don't.
He's got to get a ride.
The only way you can fault GMS really is the late notice on it, I guess. I mean, it sucks. It sucks for a guy to lose his ride. And today I was listening to Sirius, and they had Mike Skinner and Ron Hornaday on talking about it, and Hornaday was ticked off for Sauter, and rightfully so. I mean, the same thing happened to those guys, but it's the business, you know?
Yeah.
It is business.
Sports, man. Yeah. And Hornaday's probably ticked off because he was that guy. He was old man driver who was really successful and lost his ride.
Yep.
And that happens.
So, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a bummer for Sauter. I do hope he winds up somewhere. But I mean, that's what happens, especially when this series used to be the retirement series for Cup, and it's not anymore. It's the breeding ground. This is the first step of 3 to get to three. First step of 3 to get to the Cup series. You start here, you bump up to Xfinity, and then you go to Cup. And so,
well, how many times have we talked about, you and I, how many times have we talked about guys wanting to go out on their own terms? You know, Matt Kenseth, so on and so forth. If you're in the Truck Series, chances are you're not going to be going out on your own terms at this age. You know, I don't want to sound like I'm bashing the guy for being 40, because that's not it. It's just it's the way it is, man.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you're 40. He's 26. He's a champion. You're a champion, but he's got a future.
Yeah.
How much of a future does Johnny Sauter have?
Yeah.
I mean, he probably could drive that truck for the next 5-6 years and continue to crank out top 5 points finishes and be just fine. But I don't know. If the team wants to make a splash, get that guy. Get Moffitt.
Yeah, Moffitt's open. You're a championship caliber team. GMS Racing is a top team in the Truck Series. They got to go for Moffitt.
It's a good move for Moffitt too, because they have the Xfinity affiliation that they could.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this is
this could be
definitely
a good
Moffitt. This is a career move for Moffitt for sure.
Yeah, Sauter's not going up. He ain't going anywhere. Sauter's stuck. He's going to be a Truck Series driver the rest of his career. But Moffitt's he wants to get back to Cup Series.
Right. So
he goes to GMS, does a year here, next year Xfinity, and then boom, he could be in Cup or just like that. There's a path for him.
So let's play this game then. I mentioned we talked a little bit about the current nature of the sport, and I don't think anybody can realistically argue that this is a good sign between this and the Ross Chastain deal and some of the other stuff that we've seen go down this past year. I don't think anybody can argue this is good for NASCAR.
No,
period. If you're arguing this is good for NASCAR, you've got blinders on. I'm sorry, Dave Moody, but you can't argue that this is a good thing for NASCAR. Period.
No, I heard the argument that this is actually good because it's going to help build up the smaller teams.
Yeah, baloney.
That's such crap.
Yeah.
you know, like, I don't know. You have to have highly competitive teams, and if the highly competitive teams are going away,
if the highly competitive teams can't afford to stay afloat, what does that say for the underfunded teams?
In this off season alone, that I can think of off the top of my head, we've lost a Cup Series championship team, gone.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone forever. We've lost the second in owner points contender for the Xfinity Series championship, gone. And you've lost now another championship ride with, GMS going from 3 to 2.
Right.
I mean, that's your lemonade getting watered down, man.
Yeah.
It tastes really great, but you keep adding water to it, it's going to get bland, and that's where we're at right now.
So.
And it hurts worse in the Truck Series and Xfinity Series because there's not a lot of great teams to begin with.
Right. So I'll ask you this question and I'll answer it after, I'll halfway answer it. So the question is, how do you fix it? And my answer is, you have to find a way to get the sponsorship requirement, the sponsorship pressure off the driver. The driver should not be the one shopping sponsorships. Back, 10 years ago, it was the team that got the sponsorship, and then they picked up the driver, but it's not like that anymore. These drivers are the ones that are having to bring these sponsorships with them, and you're asking this unrealistic demand of a driver to go out and find their own sponsorship. It's almost like the team owners are taking a lazy approach to it. And I'm not blaming the team owners for it, because it's the sponsors that want to attach themselves to, the good driver, the winning drivers. And this is me saying this is a halfway answer, because I don't know how you get that pressure off of the driver, but I feel like that's where it has to start. We need to stop. The burden of getting the sponsorship shouldn't be in the driver's hands.
Right. And these drivers are making less and less money,
Right.
but being required to bring on more and more money.
Yeah.
It's a broken system.
It really is. And I think, NASCAR is working on the ownership structure and all this stuff.
And we've had these charters, and the charters obviously aren't really doing anything.
No.
I mean, they are adding some value, but you see the numbers that these charters are being sold for.
Yeah.
It ain't much.
No.
It's pennies. Pennies on the dollar.
No, and somebody's still making freaking money on this thing. I'm telling you.
Oh,
There's
NASCAR.
lots of money being made on this, and it's time for some redistribution of the wealth in this series.
Oh yeah. You know who's making money? NASCAR and the racetracks.
Yep.
And the teams and everybody else are getting scraps.
Yep, they are, and but they're the ones that are footing the bill to put this stuff on, and it's something needs to change. It really does. The thing that concerns me is if NASCAR continues down this path, where do we go? I mean, like, there's not another option,
No,
they
it's trending.
They just bought the other option. So stock car racing's done if NASCAR goes under. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying NASCAR is going under, but they're on a downward slope. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And
There's a bottom eventually.
Yeah.
And hopefully we don't hit it.
Right.
But man, we are getting closer to the bottom every week.
My concern isn't NASCAR going away. My concern is the Truck Series going away, the Xfinity Series going away, the Feeder Series going away, K&N, ARCA.
Yeah.
That's what I'm concerned with, because when that starts happening, then you really got to be worried about the top. But I don't want to lose any of those either. I mean, I still think the Truck Series is the best series we've got, and I want the Truck Series to be successful. And and I'm sorry, I'm all about going to short tracks, and we've talked about that, and that'll bring some fans in. That is not going to make the teams more money, because all that's going to do is bring more money into NASCAR and the people who are making the money, not the people that need the money. So
yeah, they got to figure something out soon. I hope they're thinking about it. I hope Steve Phelps is up there, doing his thing. But yeah, it's just sad. I mean, it's become the norm. There's so much negativity online when it comes to the sport. Yeah. It's hard to escape it. And when your core fan base, the people who really care, are just sucked in by the negativity all the time.
Right.
It's not. I mean, people are going to want to go to where they are happy. They don't want to spend time with something that is not, not bringing them joy, right? I mean, that's the way I feel sometimes, and I'm like, man, I got to deal with it. I don't want to, keep reading all this negativity, and whenever there's a bad story that comes out, there's a million comments and retweets and all this. It's just it's been rough. This past couple of years have been really rough, but the racing has not suffered as much, and hopefully we can generate some more excitement this coming year and get things on the right track.
You will not hear. First of all, I've tended to not be very negative about this stuff, because I don't want to be. I want to look at the positive side of things, but we got to talk about it. We can't ignore it. You will not hear me being negative about the rules package. First of all, I think I've been pretty positive about it since they've announced that it's happening. Yeah. But you will not hear any negativity out of me from that until about halfway through the season next year. If it's just going to hell next season, then I'll start getting on it. But until then, I'm all in on this sucker. I think I was listening to them talk about it the other day and how much more horsepower they feel like they have than what the All-Star package was. I think it's promising. I'm excited to see what it brings us the first few races of the year. So, no negativity there from me, but this stuff is disturbing. Hopefully people are working on it. I know they want to be. I know they've got ideas, but they need to get something going.
Yep. Yeah, and there has been some good things out there. I've heard that they're going to move the banquet to Nashville, which leads me to believe that, well, if they're going to move the banquet to Nashville, we're going to go Cup Series racing in Nashville. So that's pretty exciting stuff. And I saw, actually, I wanted to figure out a way to tie this in. I think I found it. So Jeff Gluck had asked people, people who left NASCAR, how would you, what would get you to come back?
Right.
So somebody did graphs and pie charts of the responses.
Okay.
And the biggest chunk to get NASCAR fans back is track variety. And I think, you and I are on the same page there, right?
Yeah, I think so.
You start mixing up the schedule, get fans excited again, money starts flowing again, sponsorships come in. That could be the way,
My thing
Second
is,
on that list is closer racing, and I think
we're
NASCAR's
gonna get
obviously
that.
trying to do that. They're trying to do it.
Yep. I don't feel like we have too many 1.5-mile tracks. We just go to them too many times.
Yeah. Yep. One time a year. That'd be fine.
There's no reason to go to any of those 1.5-mile tracks more than once. Maybe Charlotte. No, forget Charlotte.
No, well, Charlotte, we got the Roval now, so hopefully we've got that fixed.
So here's something I thought of. This coming out of nowhere, and this is going to extend the podcast. So we're almost at 45 minutes. So I lied to you guys as usual. What if the way to dip the toe in Cup Series racing at Nashville is the All-Star race?
That would be my guess.
We run an Xfinity and a Truck Series weekend with the All-Star race as the marquee event. We don't have a full field of Cup cars there. We show what we can do on that track with a small field of Cup cars. And there you go. You got your Cup cars at Nashville, and it's not a regular season event. And that makes something special out of the All-Star race as well.
Yep, I'm all for that, man.
I think it'd be cool. I'm excited to see what happens with Nashville. I really am. I think everything's pointing pretty strongly to we're going to have some NASCAR racing there. And as you said, the more of the stuff that happens, the more it's pointing that we're going to have a Cup race there, which is great.
Yeah, and that excites us. I mean, we're both, we're both advocates of variety in the schedule. I think almost everybody is. Drivers too. Everybody wants more variety in the schedule.
And here's the thing: if these guys are spending hundreds of millions of dollars to redo the grandstands at some of these tracks that we have, why can't we spend $100 million in Nashville and make that into a Cup track?
Yeah.
I mean, the track's there.
Let's add seats to a track for once.
Yeah, right. No kidding.
That would be some positive news.
Man, no kidding.
Yeah.
When do you think they start tearing stands out of Bristol?
Oh, I hope that doesn't happen. But man, it's such an eyesore now.
I'll tell you what, man. Going back and watching some of the '90s races where you can actually see outside of the track is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, the place is cool now, but I've never been there either way. Hopefully that changes in April. Really crossing my fingers that works out. Yeah, I mean, it might be kind of neat to open that place. I mean, the people that die or that don't die, but that deal with carbon monoxide poisoning while they're there would probably really enjoy it being opened up.
Yeah, right. Thunder Valley, baby.
Yep.
It's so cool to watch those old 90s and 2000s races when that place was just jamming.
It's cool to watch any of those races when they go down the backstretch at any track and the car's like 6.5 inches off the ground.
Bouncing down the straightaway.
Charlotte, when they used to hit the crossover on the backstretch and they'd bounce.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's so great.
Yep.
Those are the days. Racing wasn't as good as we remember it, but it's still pretty dang neat to go back and watch that stuff.
Oh heck yeah, man! Absolutely, I agree.
Any other news that we missed, James?
I don't think anything on the news front. I think I think we covered everything right there. I mean, we really dug deep on the Racing Wives on CMT.
Yeah,
so
I know.
That's what everybody's listening for.
I didn't want to miss out on it. I mean, I felt like that was the money. That was the money discussion this week. I'm going to put that in the teaser, and our hits are just gonna fly this week.
Wait,
this is the one.
Samantha Bush is gonna tweet at us, get all mad.
Yeah,
it's gonna be great.
Hey, Samantha tweeted at me before. I got a retweet from Samantha.
That's nice. That's a good one.
Yeah, back I think 2 years ago, when I took the picture of her and Braxton on pit road. So, yeah,
that's how you do it.
Yep, that's what you got to do. Any shout outs, James?
I don't have a specific shout out, but I do have a suggestion.
Okay.
If you are subscribed to HBO and you're a Dale Earnhardt Jr. fan, there is an episode of Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel, and it is a feature on Dale Jr. post-career. Not a whole lot of stuff that we didn't really know, but they get some pretty good stuff.
Veep's not back yet, is it? When does Veep come back on?
I don't know when Veep comes back on, but True Detective's coming back this week.
See, I still haven't caught up on Silicon Valley. I got to watch last season of Silicon Valley, and I've been waiting for Veep. And as soon as Veep comes back, I was going to get HBO.
Dude, they had Game of Thrones footage this week.
Game of Thrones sucks.
I'm telling you
Game of Thrones is like NBA basketball, James. Nobody cares.
Well, I don't care about NBA basketball anymore either, pretty much. But
my wife was not aware of the Malice in the Palace. I had to
What?
school her on the Malice in the Palace the other day.
When did this discussion happen?
I don't remember what we were
I
talking
remember
about.
where I was when the Malice. I know people who were in the building of the Malice.
I
in the
don't even
Palace.
watch basketball, and I knew about the Malice in the Palace. I don't. We were talking about the Pacers, and I said I hate the Pacers, and I couldn't remember why I hate the Pacers. I just knew that I hated the Pacers, and I'm like, maybe it was the Pacers were in the Malice in the Palace, but they weren't. It wasn't. It was.
It was the Pacers, yeah.
Or
They
no,
were the Malice in the Palace?
no, the Celtics. Celtics are the ones that I was
Celtics,
saying
yeah.
that I hated. The Pacers were the ones I was getting them confused. But yeah, so I mentioned the Malice in the Palace, and she's like, what's that? I'm like, you don't know about the Malice in the Palace? So we watched a 7 or 8 minute video, the live footage from it.
That hasn't changed arena sports forever.
I'm actually surprised it didn't change them more than it did.
God. If you want some good reads, I don't know how I went from Dale Jr. on HBO to this, but if you want a good read, there's some good oral histories out there of the Malice at the Palace.
Okay.
My favorite quote ever is from that, when Ron Artest was sitting in the locker room quiet and nobody was speaking because of all the crazy, and he looked up and asked his teammate, "Do you think we're going to get in trouble?" Well, kinda.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Malice Palace.
If you're not familiar with the Malice in the Palace, go check it out. 2004, right? I think.
That was, I believe 04 or 05. The Pistons were championship contenders at the time, so they were, it was right in that area.
Yeah. Big brawl with the fans at the Palace. Good
yeah,
stuff.
that guy tried to square up and punch one of the Pacers and got absolutely unloaded on.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It was. Those were the days, man.
Yeah, sports were fun back in the day.
Yeah. I do have a shout out that I want to throw out here. Since he's a friend of the show and former co-host on the show for one episode, Aaron Bearden kind of pushing his own thing a little bit this off season. Started the Motorsports Beat. Check him out on patreon.com/AaronBearden93. He's got some stuff on there about what he's doing. Basically, Motorsports Beat, creating unique content and an email newsletter for racing fans. Kind of his deal that he was doing with Jeff Gluck at the end of last season with the morning warm-up newsletter. And anytime, we're trying to get started out in this thing, anytime somebody's getting some traction and getting somewhere with it is pretty cool. So Aaron's a good guy. His coverage is good. If you can handle his puns, definitely check him out if you haven't already. We've talked about him plenty on the show. Like I said, he was on the show. I think it's our top rated show ever on the podcast. No offense, James.
That's okay.
And definitely check it out. Aaron Bearden's a good guy. Aaron Bearden 93 on Twitter as well. So
yeah, and if anybody could get it started and get it pulled off, I think he has enough of a following that he might be able to get this thing going.
And this dude's a worker too. Like
he'll make it happen.
The travel he's done, like every time I see him at the track, he's like half asleep because he's been traveling all night and slept in his car and whatever to get there. So
yeah,
I feel like I'm pretty dedicated. I feel like Aaron's got me beat by a lot.
Yeah, and Jeff Gluck is an avid supporter of his.
Yes.
And Jeff, if Jeff is willing to push for him, then he'll be fine.
Yeah, if Jeff says he's a good guy.
I'm still waiting to hear what Pacris is doing. No news on Pacris.
I haven't heard anything either.
He's still tweeting, doing his thing.
Well, he's still tweeting ESPN stories, so
he posted an ESPN story this week. So
hey, speaking of that, okay, I'm gonna go on a soapbox here for a second. I think I did a little bit in the last podcast. So today, I'm pulling notes for the show, and the easiest way to do show notes to go through the news items is just to go to JSki and scroll down the list. I like to give credit to whoever wrote the actual story, so I don't usually stick on the JSki thing. I just find it for the news, and then I'll try and click through their links to go to the actual story. But let me use an example here. Real quick. So here's the thing with JSki. Like I'm a journalist, right? Like this NASCAR journalism thing is something I'm trying to do for fun and trying to get some traction with. But my actual day job is being a journalist. And we are taught not to, if you use somebody else's story, you don't put your name on the story. So here's the story on the Jeff Gordon thing on JSki. Jeff Gordon returning to Fox Sports in multi-year deal. By Scott. Well, it doesn't say by. It just says Scott Page, ESPN. At the top, leading me to believe that Scott Page of ESPN wrote the story that's on JSki. Jeff Gordon's second NASCAR career as a TV analyst isn't coming to an end anytime soon. The 4-time Cup Series champion will be inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame next month. It's the first 2 sentences of the story. So I scroll down to the bottom of this article, and there's a link to motorsport.com. By Jim Utter. The 4-time Cup Series champion who will be inducted in the NASCAR Hall of Fame next month has agreed. So I guess they rewrote it, but it's just dry.
This is the internet in 2019, Eric. I'm sorry.
No, it actually, I take that. NASCAR Hall of Fame next month has agreed. Yeah, it's the exact same thing. There's the whole
standards
article.
are gone. There are no.
Yeah,
there
so
are no more
I take that back. I didn't read it right. The entire article is just copy and pasted. It's not rewritten at all. This is irritating.
Yeah.
Irritating. So I'm fine. Look, I'm fine with J-Ski running the story, and I'm not blaming J-Ski specifically. I'm fine with the story being on J-Ski, but put freaking Jim Utter's byline on it. And look, I'm not going to advocate for Jim Utter ever. But put his byline on it. He wrote the story. He did the work. Don't take credit for it. Oh, my God.
If anything, just type up a 1-paragraph summary and put a link to the actual story on there.
Right.
Is it really that bad?
Right. And I'll give them credit. They do link to it at the bottom, but
That's
who's going to click on the link?
So in my profession, we get articles all the time that we can use. Sometimes we can copy and paste and post them, and that's fine. We pay for the service.
Right.
But sometimes we don't, and we have to type up a summary and send a link. We don't type up the whole thing and take it.
That's what we have. We have a contract with AP. We run AP stories. We run them in our paper, but we don't put our byline on them.
Right.
You know?
AP. Yeah, Associated Press.
It's like,
my God.
All right, I'm off my soapbox now.
It's a great soapbox to start the year.
God, that irritates me. All right. James, where can they find you on social media if they want? Where can they find you to annoy you? If they really want to just get under your skin and maybe, like, I don't know, count down the start of the Daytona 500.
Yeah. Instagram is also a good place. It's the same. It's at James Cush, my name. On Twitter, Instagram, wherever. Just annoy me. It's fine.
There you go.
I'm already in the cesspool.
You can find me on Twitter at TSuperspeedway, except during the off season where I try to avoid it like the plague. So you can also find me at Eric8199 on Twitter. Sorry, it's going to be a lot of hockey stuff because that's what I'm doing right now.
Doing a great job, by the way, everybody. Just so you know, like, Eric takes these incredible sports photos, so check them out, please.
I just push the button on the camera. The camera does all the work. So
yeah, but you're doing a great job, man. You're working really hard. It's awesome. I got to see. For the listeners out there, Eric and I saw each other in person for the first time in 7 or 8 months.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. So people would think that we see each other all the time. No, it's not the case.
The best part is like we hardly even talk much. I mean, especially during the off season, like I scrolled through my text messages to find you today to say, hey, are you good to go tonight? And like you were way down the list. So it's like
we're taking some time off. We needed a break from each other.
Yeah. when the racing seasons actually happen and we text back and forth a lot during the week.
Oh yeah. No, we do text quite a bit, but I know you've been busy Spirit Hockey and I'm busy running around like God knows where. My 2-year-old's really pushing my buttons right now.
Yeah, I got to meet. That was my first time meeting her, right?
Yeah, you got to meet Ellie. Yeah.
I mean, I've talked to her before on the podcast. Well, not live on the podcast.
But she didn't talk to you in person yet. I don't think we can. Well, she kind of did. She said bye.
Yeah, a little bit. She
was more into whatever the mascot was doing.
Yeah.
At least
she was not scared of the mascots. That's good.
You know what ticks me off too is we go to Santa Claus and we try to get these nice pictures over Christmas, and she won't go see him. But oh no, the Sammy Spirit, he's cool.
So she's 2, right?
She's 2, just turned 2.
So you guys, I mean, she's still pretty young. Have you guys had the stranger conversation with her? Like, don't go to strangers and stuff? Or is it too early still?
It's still too early. We don't have a whole lot of stranger opportunities. Somebody's always there right now.
So instead of talking to her about strangers, you guys just take her and sit her on a stranger's lap and tell her to smile for a picture.
Yeah, Erin and I had this conversation about Santa. And we say to her, because we say to her, like, you're taught your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Stranger danger.
Yep.
And then you got to go. I hated Santa too. I don't blame her. I mean,
I still don't like Santa.
I'm surprised I ever got gifts. To be honest with you. Oh God.
Yeah. All right. You can find the podcast on Facebook at facebook.com/thesuperspeedway. You can find us on the web at www.thesuperspeedway.com. You can find the show notes on there, old podcasts, whatever else we've done, some stories, photos, etc. I almost didn't do show notes for tonight. I almost just winged it, but I put some together, so they'll be up there. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud. I've said this before, but hopefully more places soon. I need to do some research and get us out a few more places. Speaking of Patreon, we mentioned Aaron's Patreon. If you check out Aaron, we hope you check us out as well. Patreon.com/thesuperspeedway. There's ways to become a part of the show, help fund what we're doing, get us out to the racetrack. And yeah, I could use the help this year. I'm planning on about 4 or 5 races, and a little money in the pocket would help go a long ways towards like hotels and all that stuff. It's pretty expensive. It's kind of, you get on the track for free, but the track's not usually the expensive part of the trip. So
right.
So any help would be appreciated. But if you guys like what you're seeing, like what you're hearing, you enjoy the podcast, we'd love for you to become a Patreon over there. So anything else, James? I think we wrapped it up.
No, I think we're good, man.
All right, I'm gonna hit the right button this week when we head on out of here. We'll be back again before Daytona sometime. I don't know. No promises. Can't promise it'll be next week.
Maybe a week, maybe another week after that.
Maybe 2 weeks. Heck, we almost went 3 weeks. So anyway, We'll be back. Just keep watching for us. Please subscribe, and we'll pop up in your little podcast player when there's a new episode. So check us out then. Follow us at Facebook to get updates as well. Until then, everybody, let's go racing.